Man, a lot of people hate me for what I do. I seriously wonder if there's someone out there planning my assassination or saving up to assassinate me. Okay, so let's see what's up with these paintings. Some really good looking stuff here, but fundamentals, basics that I always say. I say basics are, just because they're basics doesn't mean they're simple. Simplicity isn't promised with fundamentals. It's actually quite complex to keep yourself consciously monitoring these rules as you paint. And to have to do this with every single painting, it becomes very difficult to put yourself. I was talking to another student the other day, and I was saying there's a kind of like a presentation factor involved in painting. You always feel like you're on stage. When we do studies, we're less inclined to feel like we're performing our art and our skill, which puts a lot of pressure on our skill, causing it to our performance suffers for it. So when we do masterpieces, this is what happens. Please remember that whatever masterpiece you do now or you'll do forever will always be somehow affected by your need to perform well. um, so the skills plus the technique plus your work environment plus the knowledge plus the sharpness of the planning and the story and the composition, all of that stuff comes together, and all of that might become a little murky and cause a lot of issues in your painting. This is why I say for students to stop trying to do masterpieces, and when they do masterpieces, they should try to imagine them not as masterpieces or as you on the stage, just you testing out your current skill level, a momentary clip of where you are right now in the greater animation of your art journey. All right? Um, See it as a minor window into your current skill level, not as the final presentation. A masterpiece is a masterpiece. This is always going to be my mantra. I'm always going to say this to you guys. But I congratulate you, and it's very rewarding when you do complete a painting, like I actually finished it. That's just it's a beginner struggle to not be able to finish a painting, right? A lot of us just finish it, half finish it, draw an eye, draw a nose, and some other random shades, and then we give up on the painting and we throw it away. So it's nice being able to finish a painting thoroughly. It's really rewarding. So don't see it as me trying to stop you from achieving that reward that keeps us really all going and keeps the artist going. But remember that the masterpieces you're going to do are going to be all your issues, all the basics that you don't have a vocab for, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb, and it's going to be very obvious where you're having trouble. Alright, so let's get on to this here critique, this image, and we're going to talk about a couple things. Alright, so the first thing is the white background, but it's presentation. It's the deliberate white background. Your values seem to be really high, but again, she seems like she's in the way of the sun, or she's in a silhouette kind of situation, which is fine. I do recommend you darken her shade all around, but it's like a graphic. It's like a choice for the way you've organized as I can call it, graphic choice. It's a design choice. Why you've chosen the background to be this color, which is fine. It's forgivable, but there are some real issues happening here. The first issue is the fact that she's squinting. I'm gonna jump straight into Liquefy. She's squinting a lot. I mean, she's not squinting. The fact that she's hiding her, sorry, the fact that she's hiding her face in the shade. Usually when we do that, we do a little something like this, where we're squinting our eyes. The expression did not match the action. The expression, a lot happens in it. So this is something we need to do. Don't know what's happened to this other eye. I think I did that. I'm not sure. Alright, so she's squinting. I'm gonna have to get the other eye and erase it back. The nose is a little bit high on the face. I'm gonna bring that nose down. We're not looking up at her face. The perspective isn't worm's eye. So we would see the side of the nose more than the bottom of the nose. You've exaggerated the lips way too much to a point where we've escaped the elf, and the chin is way too far in the distance. I mean, behind it, at a farther distance away. from the lip. So these are all the immediate issues that I see right away. I'll show you the before and after real quick, and we'll talk about the other issues. The eye, because I squinted it, has now become smaller, so I have to raise this density all the way up. Increase the size of this eye. Alright, before, after. These slight changes in her face actually made her look like she's squinting. The smile, the size of the mouth was more ogre than elf, so it was moving away from the beauty trope, the Barbie, the Aphrodite. It was taking away from that typical thing you're working with. You're putting a pretty girl in the middle of a post-apocalyptic kind of setup, and you're trying to juxtapose those two themes, beauty and garbage, which is really fun to paint that stuff. It's what the whole steampunk thing is about as well. But when we miss out on the basics of beauty, this is when we make mistakes like this. It doesn't look right. It looks right to us, but it doesn't look right to those who are looking at the painting, because we enter a tunnel vision while we're drawing, and our perception of beauty is adjusted to match what we've painted. Because we've spent so long on it, we idolize our painting. So raising this eyebrow just a little bit, getting rid of that caricature-like arch in her brow, which seemed painted on, very unnatural. Where we see this kind of eyebrow, let me show you where this... So the guys who designed Cruella de Vil chose very specifically what they were doing with her eyebrows. They made some very, very guided choices around why they were doing the eyebrow, or why the eyebrow of this character was designed this way. Alright, these are very, very specific choices, because this kind of eyebrow doesn't feel natural. It feels very angry all the time. Even in a neutral state, it feels devious. When we have that kind of eyebrow, that's the kind of trope we're working with. You will not get away with it if you think that the eyebrow you make, if it's that much of an exaggerated arch, will still look pretty. It'll still look a little bit Cruella de Vil. Alright? So be careful with that exaggerated painted on Scow's brow, that Sharpie brow. You really don't want to make that mistake, especially if you are dealing with like the Barbie doll babe face. If that's what you're trying to paint. She still looks like she's smiling. Her chin is still the same. We still have the same features. It's just that now the perspective on the nose is more controlled. The size of the mouth is now adjusted to match the... I'm so sorry. I'm so total brain blank. I worked out too hard this morning. Oh my god. What was the elf? The triangle. Yes, to match the triangle. Before, after. Okay? So that squint is happening now, which was really nice. You were going for it. The arm. The arm is really out of place. It's just completely out of place. What we have to do to fix this is very, very simple. Something like this. At least momentarily fix it until we invite you to try a study or two on this perspective before throwing it into a masterpiece. If you've never tried to draw an arm in this perspective, or have never even sketched a body in this angle, and now that you've put it in a masterpiece, it becomes very obvious that you have a weakness in this department. Her face would be much more close, her hand would be much more close to the head, but this is all I can do for the time being. Alright, so before, after. Be careful of showing off too much of the, before, after. Be careful of showing off too much of the nostril. I think that's the main reason why when we draw like a really scary, let's see, let me just search up really generally, Ogre, Lord of the Rings. Right, let's try to see one of these ogres. Wait, which one is he? I guess it's this one. You see this upturned nostril? Avoid it as much as possible. Avoid this whole thing. Anything that takes from this, the lack of the eyebrow, I mean, he's got a cute face if you think about it. It kind of looks like Honey Boo Boo Child if you... It looks just like her. It's just like a fucking zombie version of her. see what I'm saying? Same exact proportions. Anyway, just make sure that the upturned nostril that never happens in your work if you're trying to draw a babe. Alright? You want to get away from that upturned nostril you had before. She also had a bit of an overbite, or just a completely outer bite, upper and lower teeth. That also takes away from the beauty. Hi, Dank Meme, I notice you. Yeah, you are a little bit too late, the McDeath. Nice name. Please submit stuff to the Google community. Avoid draw orcs, yes. Yeah, he's kind of hot. Yeah, I know. The white orc is actually much more hot than he is. But yes, these are the corrections I wanted to make. The arm is still way too wonky, but this is all I can do for now. The white background should invite the fact that this entire area here, by the way, you've drawn the hair with individual, the hairline is very unnatural. The hairline doesn't feel natural. This arm is also really long. This arm's elbow should be up here. We'll do that in a second. So throwing a cast shadow over the entire body will make this feel more like a silhouette. The light is behind her, right? If the light is behind her, why is there a cast shadow cast over her hand on her face? The light is behind her. She's the shadow. We're on the side of her that is the shadow. So you're going to have to make some choices here. Maybe get rid of the cast shadow, leave it only as the shadow that she is because the light is behind her, and then leave her arm the same way. Let me fix this arm as well. I don't know if I can. Okay. Alright, so just adding in that sleeve. Alright. That's all I can do for now. Before it was a little bit light. After it's just as dark as it's supposed to be, and if we check the navigator, it really does feel like she's in a silhouette. It feels much more natural, feels like a realistic light source, and let me tell you, if you capture realistic light sources in your paintings will look better. So this explains all the bleed. There's a lot of white bleed around the painting right now where she's standing. A lot of the white going over the edge of her form. And this looks good now that we added the shadow there. So take a look at this navigator. Take a look at what the navigator is telling us. It's telling us it's working. I actually feel like she's standing in the way of the light. Minus the anatomy issues and a couple of the proportion issues here. It's a good painting, it's a good composition, it's a good design. I recommend this club that she has with blood splattered on it to be a lot less saturated. It is in a shadow. And it should probably get this color. This one right here. So it feels more like a brown stick that she uses to club motherfuckers with. The light source is clearly behind her, and if there's a second light source, the shadows would be affected. Yes, if there's a second light source, we will not have a silhouette anymore. If it's a second light source, it's powerful enough to cast these sharp shadows. If there's a second light source competing with the primary that's causing the greater silhouette, then it will diffuse the silhouette. We will no longer be in a cast shadow. So this whole system here, if you want to kind of introduce a secondary light source, make these more blurry. Do not make them this sharp, because now you're saying this light source is so strong, it's only casting this individual light source. This doesn't happen like that. Physics isn't selective. Everyone write that back to me. Physics, the rules of physics are universal. So it's not just going to choose only the hand and cast the shadow off only that hand. This is why I'm blurring it so that this light source doesn't seem so strong, because if it was strong, this whole area would be lit up. Now, one more thing that you could do to enhance the silhouette is the contrast and a little bit of the brightness. Keep the contrast high. You might want to desaturate areas that are too primary in color, like they're too raw, like those crayon brightness colors, because in a shadow, colors are less bright. Please don't use a single 1 pixel width brush to paint the hair. It does not look good. It's not a good look. It doesn't mean you're a good artist if you do that. It means you're an artist that depends too much on the single 1 pixel brush to paint for you. Light isn't just going to randomly choose every one of those strokes you did and then start casting a shadow. Hair casts shadows. Hair is oily. Hair blends with its surroundings. Hair clumps together. Drawing every single individual hair is like drawing artificial hair. It doesn't behave like hair really does. Hair is an organic system. Drawing every single little hair will not render it for you. It does not work. And again, physics is not selective, it's universal. When it's selective, that's when the world will implode, probably. When light only affects one object instead of all the other objects. When gravity no longer applies to every object and some objects start floating away into the atmosphere. That's when we'll start having selective physics. Where the fuck is this? But there's no such thing as that. If you have one object on which a shadow has been cast from another object, every other object in here has to agree with this phenomenon. It doesn't work. Light can be zoned in on one object, yeah, but then we'd have this like one big square of light around her head. It doesn't work that way. I'm blurring the hairline so it feels more natural. And the arm before was way turned out too much. The squint feels a lot more natural now. And where the light starts seeping in through, so this subsurface scattering on her nose, as I made a video about subsurface scattering. I'm going to add that in, subsurface scattering through her fingers, on her lips. By the way, the eye is still wonky. I haven't fixed that. Good job on hiding the eye behind the nose, though. That's a good choice right there. You can rotate. You can imagine one object in the way of another. Don't think I have time to fully render this eye, but typically we see it kind of like a... Well, this is front view pupil, this is side view pupil. Right, so it feels like less like she's looking at an object directly in front of her on her nose. The hair, the edges of the hair will be saturated right along here. So let me get my saturation tool, which is the sponge tool, and I'm just going to saturate around. The light still bleeds through. Some areas won't be so dense as the body proper to cause a full silhouette. Some areas are a little translucent. And then there's a hot spot. The hot spot is where the light source actually is behind her. And this can be over here. Just the widest spot in the canvas. Something like that. But now her face is distorted, which isn't a good choice. Maybe throw it up there, behind her there. Somewhere where we see that the light sources from somewhere nearby. Maybe directly behind her this way. There has to be a hot spot in the painting where the light source is sourcing from. I think you did choose it as right here by her face. Not sure though, not sure entirely. Before, after. Know the rules of physics. If you don't know them, get into a form study environment and start studying them. You can't use light if you haven't studied light. If you don't know what light is, if you don't know how it behaves with dense objects and translucent objects and transparent objects, you're not going to know how to put it in a painting on a face that's rotated in a way you've never rotated it before. Maybe you've rotated it once or twice before. It's not going to work. You're not going to get away with it. Alright, you're not going to get away with not studying. Everyone write that back to me. You're not going to get away with avoiding studies. You're really not going to get away with it. It doesn't matter how nice you dress up your painting. Doesn't matter how much of a bitch I sound right now, you're not gonna get away with it. Start doing some form studies, get off the high horse, do some form studies, do yourself a favor. Next time you paint, you'll actually know when you're dealing with a silhouette. You'll know that you're drawing a silhouette. Next time you paint, you'll know the arm is a little bit too long. These things can be dealt with outside of a masterpiece environment. These things can be dealt with in a study environment, in a sandbox mode where you are allowed to make mistakes. I commend you for doing a full masterpiece, but remember, now I've told you, I've given you my opinion. Now you need to go back to do some studies. So please, the person who previously painted the painting from a second ago, please do some form studies. All right. So I made a block, and I want to go over the face bit by bit and find exactly what the issue is, because I'm having trouble finding it too. Alright, so we're going down. All of this is low detail. I'm seeing this 1 pixel width brushes for the hair. Another terrible, it's like just an epidemic. I don't know why students think they can just use a pixel brush or those scatter brushes or those wire brushes to paint hair. But anyway, I digress. Okay, pixel brush width hair strokes for the eyebrow. Asymmetrical eyes, but that's forgivable. I've seen people with these kinds of asymmetrical eyes. Alright, let's keep going. The nose keeps going. It doesn't stop. That's the first issue that pops to me. Alright, I'm going to fix that issue, and then we'll do the review after that, because sometimes when we, in fact, I'm not even going to liquefy, I'm just going to do this. Sometimes when we have one issue, can anyone finish my sentence? When we fix one issue, a bunch of other issues will be... Alright, so let's just tuck this over here. Erase that this way. Way too long. Very long face. I'm going to reset that nose back to be symmetrical. And then now we can see what's up with the lower half of the lip, because now that we fixed the nose, my eyes are also asymmetrical, very, very asymmetrical. But now that we fixed the nose, now we can see where the other issues are sourcing from. So, firstly, I'm going to make the lips a little bit more symmetrical. My jawline and my lips are not symmetrical. I'm not some sort of goddess face, so I know these things happen in the real world, but typically in this painting, this is a front view. Symmetry is on the stage right now. Symmetry is what we're looking at, so we have to remember that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this lower half. Okay. And I'm just gonna paint away some of this and bring in the new. You stopped the shadow right above the lips, which made them feel like they were outlined. Don't do that. Source the shadow from the nostril that it starts from, which is right along here. Don't outline the lips, guys. I know that you guys think you're so smart. Oh, Istebrak told me not to outline lips, but she never said don't outline with white. And then you guys do it, and you think I don't notice? I notice. Don't do this. If this half of the face is in a shadow, give up. Give it up. Throw it in the shadow. Don't fight to have it outlined just so that you think there's a better read. There's an extra read in there that you can benefit from if you outline it. It's not going to happen. So I don't have the reference you worked from. All I have is just my imagination and what I know the face features to behave like. Alright, so I'm just going to get the darken brush mode, and that's just going to darken everything around here. Alright. Okay, so let's run the scan again. This scan is really awesome. I recommend you all do this. So eyebrows, I'm just going to go ahead and fix those right away. I'm going to use the blur tool to just get rid of smudge, actually. To just completely make them more of an impressionist eyebrow. It's okay to paint an impressionist eyebrow. Do you know what impressionism is? When they didn't draw detail. Basically, they avoided shrinking their brush. They kept it as large as possible to show as much detail as possible by use of the light source. It was a really light source focused technique. of painting anything. This is exactly how you should paint eyebrows. Paint impressionist eyebrows. You'll thank me. I promise you, when you're all crazy concept artists working for 10 cent, please remember what I said to you. You will thank me that day. Okay, so I thinned out those brows. We can always darken them. Don't worry. The eyes are asymmetrical. And then we have some more individual hair lashes used for the eyelash, like individual brush strokes used for every single lash. This is a mistake. Don't do this. It makes the eyes look smaller. It makes the eyes look flat. It throws the form out of the way because form and lines just do not mix. So what do, Istebrak, now that we've erased all of anything that indicates there's hair? Shrink your brush, but don't shrink it to infinity. Throw in some major brush strokes to represent the cluster texture of the hairline of the lashes. Throw in some, little dabs and stipples here. It will work the exact same way. It will work for the same purpose. It will achieve the same thing. So all of these things are just with that little scan. I'm just going to darken the inside of the hair because there's more hair on the inside. These rules that I'm showing you, they're all basics. They're all basics. What do basics mean? They mean the things you're supposed to do always. If you want to draw things as they happen in the real world, if you want to draw realistically and make an impact with your painting. There's probably one reason why Ilya Koshinov's work is as influential as it is, and it's because he's managed to successfully combine. In fact, he works so closely with photographs just so that he can preserve as much of the realism as possible. And these rules are there. Take a look at his paintings and you'll see these rules are there. All the Impressionist artists never nixed the paint, never ever got rid of the fundamentals. All the Impressionists, it may look murky and weird to you. Impressionism may look like a big mess to the untrained eye. Impressionist. But if you really think about it, the mastery it takes to capture this degree of saturation and the desaturation and the light source and the transparency and the color in order to achieve this look. You have to study the rules to break them, and imagine the rules that these guys know. It's not that detail never carried the image, the rules did, the basics did. They are consistent even in Impressionism is my point. And Impressionism is such a deviation from the realistic or the traditional realistic. That's why it's such a celebrated art style, an age. It tried to capture as much as what the light did. It's a focus on the light. These little pieces here, if these were some sort of kind of choice to have something like a little bit new, this is one of the worst choices you can make in a portrait because it's taking the attention away from the detail you've established here. There's no artsy fartsy desire in Impressionism to take away, by adding detail to take away the focus. There's no artsy fartsiness, which means the kind of choices you make with your colors, how saturated they should be, how like artsy fartsy, all that silly stuff people do, that makes art different and unique. That stuff you can do it, I do it, but never do it to a point where it's suffocating the form. Never suffocate the physics. If you're suffocating too much physics, you're either doing it because you're untrained or you're doing it because you're a data artist or an abstract artist, and that's a whole other art form. It's not even realism anymore. But if you're trying to maintain some realism in your paintings, do not suffocate the physics. Do not suffocate the rules, the basics. By adding this strange yellow line, which was so bright and so thin, you distracted me as the viewer. I don't want to be distracted. I want to look at all the work you put into this, which is a really, really beautiful face here. And a couple of basics lined up together brought the face back into the focus, made the face important. I didn't touch the symmetry. I didn't go into liquefy. It was all measurement, and we were just refocusing the form. I'm going to get lighten tool. Because maybe of your technique or your choices or your process, I'm not sure exactly what, but the shadows got a little bit murky randomly. The shadows should be the darkest and highest in contrast, closest to the light source, and a little bit less more faded, a little bit more faded the further away from the light source they get. Okay, the eyes are asymmetrical both in the way they're formed. So this eye is a deep set, this eye protrudes. These are two different kinds of eyes. So you can tell the difference in eyes really when you look at the lower eyelids. That's where the giveaway is. So these two eyes are different, but that's fine. This happens. I have very different upper eyelids on my face. And it happens in faces, it's fine. But just remember, if that was an active choice you made, or an unintentional choice, why am I on screen? Or an unintentional choice, a choice made out of kind of just being misguided. Alright, so the before and after. Filter. What is this? Smart Sharpen. Filter. Sharpen. Unsharp Mask. Just because I used the soft brush. Alright, so we ran that scan, we went through, we got rid of all those tiny little hairs. Before, after. The face was very long. Do you see that distraction that you get out of this yellow line? This is a bad choice. You've done so much work here, there's no point in that. You don't need this to make it look more pretty. This looks pretty. That's a portrait. Face was very, very long. The neck also looked a little bit muscular, and it was kind of getting, you know, a little bit masculine as well. Okay? This texture right here, used from the brush, makes it look like she has a stubble. Skin has a very specific texture, especially skin for females. It's softer. You paint it with a much softer brush. The younger, the more female, the softer your brush should be. The older and the more male, the more textured your brush should be, because men actually have a different kind of skin under beards. It's a very bristly kind of skin. Feels like a loofah or something, a loofah, whatever it's called. Okay, so you don't want to make that mistake here. Also, the green that you have here, you have so much orange, and then you decided to add green in the exact spot you're not supposed to, because when men have a stubble, when it's starting to grow out, it has a green tint to it. Alright, so that's another thing that was happening here. So before, actually even further. Before, it looked like a bristle and like a beard that was growing out, because you had the texture and the color. So now you know how to draw a beard on a man, but remember, you don't make that choice with female skin. You want to keep the story consistent. You chose to draw an Aphrodite character, continue that. Unless for some reason it's story bound that she has to be a man as well, which is fine. Calm down, Tumblr. I can hear you marching towards me, which is fine if you want to do that. But make it obvious. Make it obvious that this was once a male or a female that wants to be. I don't know. Just don't mix them together if you wanted it to be an Aphrodite character. I think that maybe the author tried to tilt the head, but something went wrong. I need real big help on lips. I do that, but not on purpose, because my stroke always bends a little and I can't correct. You can always blend it away. Don't use a fully textured brush for a face. There's no need. You can use a soft brush for a face. Use a hard edge brush for cast shadows and edges. Edges are not supposed to be blended, so a soft brush is going to take a lot more work to not blend with soft brush. It's going to blend no matter what you're doing. It's a super blending brush, soft brush. Every pro uses it. You should start using it as well. It's really great for skin, but don't use it when you need to have edges, and don't use a textured brush for an area that should not be textured, a non-textured area, which is skin, basically. It's very consistent. It has a very minor texture to it, and that's mostly found in the way it behaves with light. Okay, so is everyone on the same page with me? Can anyone repeat to me the notes that I made you guys write back to me? Can anyone repeat all the points we've covered so far? Before, after. If you want these paintings sent back to you, please don't comment on the video and ask me to email you. Please don't email me through through Squarespace from my website, please don't. You just go to Facebook. You'll find me there. I'll comment. I'll talk to you. Just don't try to email me or ask me to email it to you. Okay, this person here who wanted to, who painted this, wanted to make an expression. Kind of like an evil expression. Let's talk about it. The eyes kind of seem to be looking down. The eyes seem contemplative while the rest of the face says, I'm going to eat you alive. This is not good. What is this? Let's say a predator covered in blood. Alright. So, alright. Dangerous wolf. Let's see the greater, I guess, images of a predator. What is the common unifying factor between these? Okay, what is it? What's happening? Can anyone tell me? I'm not even going to give you a clue because I want you guys to catch it. Alright. This one right here. Kind of exactly the same kind of image we're dealing with. Kind of the same painting you painted. Kind of forehead downturned. Lip, face bleeding. Kind of the same thing happening. What's the unifying factor? Not the teeth. No. We're talking about a human. How we were just going to draw. See, this is another issue. You guys don't feel like this is a predator enough. And the beautiful job dimming the teeth, by the way. I'm so proud of you for doing that. Thank you for not painting like no man's land white teeth. But anyway, some students might just go ahead and throw this. Oh yeah, this will make them look so badass. Oh yeah, this is awesome. Maybe one down here. This is not going to do it for you either. There's something that is a unifying factor between all of these. What is it? Chin down, eyes up. Eyes, intense eyes, the frowning, menacing, malevolent look. Eye contact. Vanilla ham. You officially earned a kiss from me. Thank you. See, a lot of you said eyes, but the word is eye contact. There needs to be a focus in the eyes if we really want to feel like this predator has chosen her prey. Yes, she has chosen her prey because this is not just a portrait, it's an interaction with the audience. Don't just paint static portraits. Alright, you want to have some space. The key way to get this effect of eye contact is to squint the eyes, not squint them, focus them, so a little bit more distance on either side, closer this way, and space under the pupil. Try it, try space under the pupil. Alright, so there's the eye. There's the downturned head that you don't really have a lot of. We really need to see more of the downturned head. And there's the fact that the eye itself is way more open, so I'm going to have to liquefy this. For the eye to be a little bit more awake, the eye seems a little bit dreamy. And if you want to do sexy time face, go ahead. A lot of people try that. A lot of pros do that for concept art, for femme fatales. Go ahead and do it. But for a predator that has blood on her face, she's recently killed something, so she's in predator mode. And increase the size of the pupil. One way to make the eyes look more pretty is to not increase the size itself, but to increase the size of the pupil, or the iris, whatever. So now I'm going to cast the eye in some shadow. Whoa, too much shadow. She's sleepy again. Can't let her be sleepy. She's a predator. She's about to pounce. She's the object of the hunt, the killer. Okay, so I'm trying not to make her look like she's going to fall asleep. Right, now she looks like she's engaged. She's chosen her audience, or her prey. It feels a little bit more intimidating now that she's made eye contact compared to before. I think she looked a little bit sleepy before. The eyes were looking in a completely different... They were looking down. If you want them to look down, but if you want her to be looking down but also looking up, the whole body has to be looking down. The whole body of the head. Damn it, Photoshop. Why do you change layers, you fucker? You already know I chose my layer. Grow a brain. Okay, so I'm getting rid of the... To make the nose feel like it has more distance or like it's looking down, make the nostrils less visible. And bring the nostril closer to the lip. She looks like she's a little bit old. So her nose also looks a little smaller. So I'm just gonna bring the nose down just a little bit. And merge that down. Her face is kind of starting to look like it's looking down. And then over here, I'm just going to erase the old nose. Now for the squint is also going to bring in that extra little bit of danger. Again, focus. Focus is the point of the function of the eyes right now. They've chosen a destination for them. Just going to lighten the eyes just a little bit. Bring this down. Remember that Cruella de Vil eyebrow? You can use it now. But only so slightly. Can't overuse it. And that squint in the eye. Now, if you want her to look like she's looking down while she's doing this, you can go ahead and do all of that and make her look down while we have her eyebrows in this position. But it's really not going to do anything. We need to see that she's looked up at the audience and she's making contact. Another massive thing is the focus in the eye, in the pupil at the iris. Okay, so a lot more of a face full of expression than before where she was looking down. It was a great eye for an eye that was looking down. It was great, but it didn't feel like a predator. If you wanted to connect this where her prey is below her, that would make sense as well. Because then she's looking at whoever she just killed, this vampire lady. Whatever choice you do make, though, please make sure that the nose goes down. Okay? So, duplicate, merge down. Oh, no. Just make sure the nose goes down a little bit. It was a little bit too high. And considering the angle of the face is kind of in a little tilt downward, we'd be seeing a little bit more. Her nose is a little bit upturned. Remember that ogre nose I showed you? Don't upturn the nose if you don't have to. Okay? So this is expression. Expression also happens when nothing is happening with the eyebrow. Sometimes no expression is expression. So this kind of I really am evil kind of eyebrow doesn't have to happen. I'm just fixing the eyebrow. I'll get the old eye back. We don't have to use the eyebrow completely. See, we still have expression without that excessive eyebrow. I need to erase much better than this. Okay, so if we look at the typical predator face, there isn't much of a squint, but it's kind of a squint. The focus, the space under the eye if the head is tilted down, the space under the pupil. My God, I love when cats have those big eyes. They're so cute. And this right here, the downward tilt. Not much in the eyebrows. Not much is happening in the eyebrows. It's really all in just the focus of the eyes, the fact that they're tilted inward. But the problem here is that you've squinted part of the eye. You've hidden one eye, sorry. So another thing you could have done is so many options for expressions. If you ever watched my other video on expressions, we go through a lot of options that you could choose in order to achieve that expression. So a little bit more, whoa, a little bit more crossed. Oops. This is usually what I do. I just use a brush just like that. And then just like this. Make them look a little crossed. Not crossed, not so crossed as what we've recently seen posted. Now she looks like she's looking away. God damn it! Okay. They just need to be balanced is all. And this bit here, we can see a little bit more of that. So a little bit more focused. But there's just one eye is not showing, so it's going to be a little bit more tricky. Another thing that happens in a predator's face is the nose flaring, which is something else you can do on this side. Because she's laughing so much, that something had to have happened to the cheek here. She can't possibly have no laugh lines. Like, she has to have like one of these. And then because she's laughing so minimally on one side, we get rid of the shadows here and just connect them. We need something to suggest that she's smiling a little bit on either side anyway, so a little bit of a fat fold there. And then the chin feels a little masculine, so you might want to close down the face just a little bit, bring it down. So here, a little bit more interactive. She doesn't even have to be looking at the audience. As long as she's looking up, it feels more like a predator. The nose is a little bit high. And that's it. Might have just a little bit of a laugh line here. Okay, any questions? So this face, I wanted to talk about it because there's no compression happening in this recorder view. So let's just jump into Portrait Studio real quick and rotate the face. So I'm just going to raise the camera up, zoom in, up. Look at what happens to this distant eye and how it just gets shorter width-wise. It shrinks in size. It doesn't actually shrink, it's just parts of it are hidden. Still the same, exactly the same length. Okay. I know I read it, I'm an idiot. I read it. I should not read your comments. I'm going to have to edit out everything. So what I have to do now is just tuck this eye back into the rotation that it's experiencing. This compression that happens. So just like this, the face felt a little bit wrong to you because it was too wide for the fact that it's no longer front view. It was too wide for a side view. It's front view, fine, you can make it exactly the duplicate, but not in 3/4 view. Okay? So exactly the same face, just this time it's rotated. You had too much info shown off. It didn't feel right. If you want her face to be wider, go ahead and widen the whole canvas. But this time it's going to be proportionate. She's still going to have the right compression on one side. Right, so before, after. It feels like this part is further away, does it not? We made the face feel like it's turning, which it is in 3/4 view. The face turns. And parts start hiding behind other parts. Yes, yes, you can go on Facebook and you can ask me for the repainted image there. You can ask for the paint over there. Okay, so can anyone, I'm so sorry, I didn't see whoever repeated the points that we covered today. Can anyone repeat the points that we covered today? If you do, you get a kiss and a sticker. Let me go back. Do you know a good way to show characters interacting with each other, like showing personality, but not too cliche? Are they looking at each other? I mean, it really just depends on the storyline. I always say the storyline is the strongest thing. It weaves your painting together. It makes you make design choices with more conviction. So Ask yourself, what kind of story is it? What's happening in the canvas between these two characters? Are they talking together? Are they best friends? I don't know. Are they girlfriend, boyfriends? I don't know. Whatever it is, there's going to change the kind of expressions you're choosing. So it's a little bit of a general question. I'm going to need a little bit more specific question. Photoshop, stop being a fucking cunt and stay on the right layer, or I'll beat you up with baloney. No, no, no. You get baloney, you put it in the CD drive, you write on it with a Sharpie for Photoshop, and then you just put it into the computer. The computer will do the rest. The computer will know what you mean. Softer brushes for female and young people. Physics are universal. Features overlap and hide each other. Thank you, Minnie LeBlanc. Thank you. First was light and physics rules, then shape, form, and proportions again. A quick lesson about shadows and values. Predator focus, rules of physics, no stubble. Any tips on avoiding muddiness? Or if you've covered it already, would anyone link me to it? Muddiness in skin, like this skin here is really muddy. Like unless she has really dark, like African darkness skin, that Nubian darkness, her skin should not be this dark. If she's a pale girl, and you try to bring in pale girl color tones, you're gonna get that muddy look. In order to avoid muddiness, keep your values high. Keep your grayscale values high. If you don't know how high they are, grayscale your image and double check. Never outline lips. No pixel width drawing for hair. Thank you. Be careful with texture, eye contact. Make sure to remember objects are 3D and hide stuff and squish it and stuff. Thank you, Caterpillar. Repeat, physics works no matter where you are. Green chins are for boys, not girls. 1 pixel brush for hair, not allowed. No pixel. Oh yeah, yeah, good, good. The computer is programmed to feed Photoshop. Never get studies. Never let studies be ignored. Or never use 1 pixel brush for hair. Good, good. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.